Okay, we're in the Book of Ruth. This is not but like 4 chapters, so it'll be a quick one. But there's a certain man and his wife. They had 2 sons, and they came from Bethlehem, Judah, which is from the tribe of Judah, their inheritance. So they're from Judah, and they go to the land of Moab because there's a big famine. Now this was happening during the time of the judges, where they'd be in captivity, or over, not really in captivity or over, pulled out of their land, but in wars and people ruling over them, and the Lord raising up judges to deliver them from their enemies' hands. So this was during that time period at some time. But they went to the land of Moab because there's a famine to live there, them and their 2 sons. And then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was just there with her 2 sons. So they took them wives of the women of Moab. One name was Orpah, and the other name was Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. And then Naomi's 2 sons died. So she was there and lost her 2 sons and her husband. And she arose with her daughter-in-laws that she might return from the country of Moab, because she heard that the Lord had visited the people in Israel, giving them bread in Bethlehem, Judah, where she was from. And so she told her 2 daughters-in-laws, basically, go back to return to their mother's house, and the Lord deal kindly with you as you dwelt with the dead and with me. And the Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husbands. And she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, we'll surely return with you to your people. And she told them, why will you go with me? I don't have any more kids. I'm old. If I was to get married and had kids, would you wait for them to grow up before you married them and not have a husband? So they lifted up their voices and wept again. And then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave to her. See, the Israelite tradition was, if the husband dies, then the wife that's left will go to the nearest kinsman and then be with them, and then keep their name alive, and or her dead husband's name alive and all that. They would go to the nearest kinsman, and they would assume the responsibility of the dead husband. So Ruth clave to her, and she told her, my sister-in-law's gone back into her people and into her gods. And she told her to return after her sister-in-law. And Ruth told her, I will not leave you or return from following after you. For where you go, I'll go, and where you lodge, I'll lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. So she wanted to stay with her. And you think about that these days. We don't have that kind of tradition in, I guess, in certain societies and civilizations and stuff, and countries and all that. But what woman, there's a lot of people, but usually if someone dies and you're with somebody, they're going to just go back to their family instead of just going on toward their family. And you think about that. That lady, Naomi, lost her husband and her 2 sons. Her daughter-in-law went back to her family, and Ruth stayed with her. So they went to Bethlehem, and the city was moved about them. They said, is this Naomi? She told them, don't call me Naomi no more, call me Mara, for the Almighty hath dealt bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord had brought me home empty. And she said that the Lord hath testified against her, and the Almighty had afflicted her. So she returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her. And they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. So Naomi had kinsmen of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth said to Naomi, "Let me go into the field and glean the ears of corn after him, whose sight I shall find grace." And she told her to go. And she went and came gleaning the field after the reapers. And the field belonged to Boaz, which was part, kinsman to Ruth's father-in-law who died. And Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, "The Lord be with you," and answered him, "The Lord bless thee." And Boaz saw her, he says, "Whose damsel is this?" And they told her, "It's a Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab." And she said, "I pray you let me glean and gather the reapers among the sheaves." So she came and hath continued even from the morning until now, and she tarried very little in the house. So Boaz saw her, and he talked to her, and he told her not to go glean another field, but bide here, fast by my maidens. Let thine eyes be on the field, that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged young men that shall not touch you when thou art athirst? Go to the vessels and drink that which the young men have drawn. So she bowed and asked him, why have I found grace in your eyes? And he told her, how he heard that she was so nice to her mother-in-law since the death of her husband, and how she left her kindred to go and follow her mother-in-law to their kindred, whom she's never knew before. And a good verse is definitely this one. It says, "The Lord will recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord of God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust." And then, now you think about that. When we feel scared, we can always go to God's wings and be comforted to God. So she met the handmaids and all that, and she ate there, and he was good to her. He protected her. He provided for her, fed her, and she brought food to her mother-in-law and all that. And then she went back to the mother-in-law, brought her food, and she asked her where she was at, and she told her the man's name was Boaz, and she told him that he was near kin to him. And so now Naomi tells her, Boaz is her kinsman, and she told her to wash herself and anoint herself and put raiment on her and go whenever Boaz gets done eating and drinking and goes to bed, to go get into bed with him, and, get him to marry her and stuff, because he was a near kinsman. Let's see, I can't get my page to turn here. So he ate, drank, he lay down, and she snuck into bed with him. He woke up afraid, and he asked her, "Who are you?" And she told him, "I'm Ruth, your handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, that thou art a near kinsman." So basically what she told him was, marry me because you're near kinsman, to feel the obligation of the tradition and all that. And he told her that she showed more kindness to him because she didn't go after no young man, whether poor or rich. She went after her kids, but she faithful, followed the way that it should be. And but he told her there's a nearer kinsman than he is. And she told him to stay that night, and he gave her food to take back to her mother-in-law. And he went down to the gate of the city and talked to the near kinsmen and all that, and elders of their witness. And he told them about redeeming the field of Elimelech, to redeem it. And if you don't redeem it, tell him that he may know, for there is none to redeem it besides thee, and I'm after thee. So the guy said, I'll redeem it. And he told him that you'll have to buy the field of the hand of Naomi, that thou mayest also buy of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up a name of the dead among his inheritance. So the kids was like, well, I can't do that. I've got my own stuff, my own family, my own land and all that. I can't go and get the lady pregnant, support 2 families and all that, because, he didn't have enough money to, I guess. So then basically Boaz was pleased, and then he went and he said, well, I'll buy it and I'll witness and I'm going to redeem her. She's going to be my wife. And then people was, happy. So we're witness, the Lord make the woman that is coming to thine house like Rachel and Leah, which 2 did build up the house of Israel, and do worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem. Let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, and of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife, and when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the women said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that in his name may be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thine old age for thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons hath borne him. So Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom, and became nurse unto it. And the child's name was Obed, which is the father of Jesse, the father of David. So basically Obed is King David's great-grandfather of the tribe of Judah. And then it goes down the lineage from Judah and Tamar, and they had Pharez, and it goes to the lineage of through Boaz and Obed and Jesse and David. And that is the Book of Ruth. And what I get out of this book is people's going to go through things. Just like Naomi and her husband, they went to Moab because there was famine, and her husband died and her sons died. So she had pain, she had losses in her life. But the Bible says to suffer is the gain. And what come out of this was, from her losses, she got a grandson, and from him was going to be a great king of Israel, David. And like I say, Ruth and Boaz, so that's 2 different races right there too. A Moabitess and an Israelite. So that's 2 races mingled in. And basically, David has part Moabitess in Moab in him. See, the thing is, they're not pure race anymore. They're mingled in because they made relations with other people and all that, and married, which God didn't want to do because they would serve the other gods, but that was the only reason. It's because of the paganism that went on. And then also, how she was faithful, and she cleaved to Boaz and to her mother-in-law. He provided for her. So it's like us with Christ. If we cleave to Him, He'll provide for us. He'll take care of us. He'll comfort us. Just like in this story. But that is the Book of Ruth. And now we'll be going to 1 Samuel.